Hi guys, welcome back to Authentic Talks. I'm really excited because we've been having amazing shows. I think that we've had some amazing guests, you guys, and we have been learning and growing and just pressing forward with all of the great information that we've been receiving from our guests. I'm really excited, you guys, that we are going to continue that trend. Today, my guest that we have on the show is passionate about helping women survivors thrive in trauma recovery. She is specifically trained to work with a variety of clients with issues related to depression, anxiety, and other stress responses. My guest today specializes in guiding women to develop skills that increase their effectiveness in their interpersonal interactions, including communication and asking for what they want. Not only is she specializing in those areas, she also has a podcast titled Food Is Not Bae. And she also has a book with the very same title, Food Is Not Bae. I totally love the name of the podcast. Today, you guys, we're going to be talking about her podcast and all about the book and coaching and Food Is Not Bae. Just what does that really mean? We're going to get into all of those things and a little bit more. I want to share with you guys something I found from her website. It says, things happen in life, but they don't have to define who you are. All right, guys, are you ready? Let's go ahead and get this show on the road. Please welcome Dr. Ebony Butler to the show.
Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm really excited for you to be here as well. We haven't had a chance to really talk, but I've had an opportunity to check out your website, and you have a host of things that you have expertise and knowledge in. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your background. Dr. Ebony, what is it that you specialize in?
Yeah, so I'm so glad that you were able to check out all this stuff. I feel like I got my hands in like so many different pots, and I'm just so excited about so many different things. So I first kind of like my thing that pays me, my thing that pays like my bills and funds my dreams. It's like my 9 to 5, which I'm a psychologist. So I'm a licensed psychologist here in Texas, and my expertise is trauma recovery, interpersonal relationships, effective communication, complex personality presentations, and basically just helping us identify who we are outside of all the things that have happened to us. So identity development, and I mainly work with women of color, particularly around those issues that are getting in the way for them. Then in my practice as a coach, I'm a food relationship expert. So I also help people learn how to create a healthy relationship with food, their bodies, and themselves. And I believe that they all are interconnected because many times we've experienced trauma or we've had difficult relationships or we haven't been really taught to effectively communicate. We can't really communicate with ourselves. We don't really know what's best for our bodies. And that does impact the way that we show up with food and our health. And so then I'm interested. I have a podcast that plays off of my coaching, and then I wrote a book that also plays off of my coaching as well.
Wow, you've been a busy lady.
Yeah, trying to get some things done.
Yeah. So, there was a lot that you said there. You wrote a book. I love to
hmm
read. What is the name of your book?
So the book is called Food Is Not Bae. So BAE, and that's the name of the podcast as well. And so the premise behind that is that food is not above or before anything else. We are. And so when people hear the title Food Is Not Bae, they think I'm saying that we can't eat food and we can't enjoy food. And it's actually the opposite. It's that we can use it, we can enjoy, but we don't need to use it for our comfort. We don't need to use it for our identity. And we're actually not defined by the things that we eat. We're actually not defined by our body size. We're actually not defined by our weight. But that food is not above anything else, and that I am, and I get to call the shots, and I get to make the decisions about what's healthy for me. I get to decide what feels good to my body. So that's what all of that is about. And actually, the book takes you through the courtship, the dating, the actual relationship, and then breaking up with food. Actually, food as an identity or weight as an identity, that kind of thing. So it progresses the same way that a relationship does. So we talk about what that looks like, messages that you received when you were younger, things that we tend to hold on to, problematic patterns that we get in, restrictive dieting, that kind of thing, and how we can begin to break away from that.
Wow. I love the name of your podcast and the name of the book. Food is Not
Thank
Bae.
you.
That's
Uh-huh.
awesome. I
Thank
like
you.
it.
Thank
And
you.
so, whenever you talk about like us getting away from some of the things that we learned as a child, what do you mean? Growing up in my household, we were always taught that we needed to clear our entire plate,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and
Those
we couldn't afford to waste food, so we were stuffed, but we were like,
uh-huh.
okay, two more bites, and we had to
Yeah.
force it in. And I now have that as a habit as an adult.
You hit the nail right on the head because a lot of us don't realize or even make that connection that that's why we still do the things that we do. So it's those types of messages there that were born out of uh, scarcity, that were born out of just a need to fulfill or kind of feed an entire family with little resources, and we don't realize that that was contextual, and many of us aren't living in that same context, but we still engage in those same behaviors. So learning to separate context and put context in its appropriate place and put behaviors respective to those contexts. So it's those types of messages, and also messages of make sure you clean your plate, make sure you don't waste money, eat all of your food, or the kids in Africa are going to starve. Those kinds of things. And we're not realizing that they don't make any logical sense for us now, but we still engage in them out of habit, and we haven't yet learned how to break away from those habits. Other things like you don't have enough money to actually feed yourself, or even messages such as I get to tell you what to eat, so that now when we are adults, we don't realize that being able to choose our food is actually freedom. So many of
Mm-hmm.
us don't realize that we can't stick to diet programs per se, because we are actually engaging in freedom, being able to choose what we eat. So when somebody else tells us what to eat, we're rebelling. And we don't realize that we're actually doing that because food has been a source of freedom, individuality for us, independence, so to speak. So it's those things and getting to the core of that. So I began to break away. When I first started, I actually started like helping people create meal plans, meal prepping for people, that kind of thing. And then I realized as I began to kind of use my psychology brain of things is that this isn't the issue at all. The issue is that we're still engaging in specific mindset patterns, habits, and not responding to triggers in appropriate ways. And these are the reasons that we're showing up the way that we are. So this is actually way deeper than just getting a meal plan or going to the gym. This is us. This is our minds. This is our habits. This is our bodies that are actually getting in the way. And we've got to begin to break away from those things if we're ever going to be consistent and create sustainability.
Wow. So it's all about having a new mindset.
Yes, absolutely. That's
Mm.
at the core of everything, because you realize, even starting your podcast, right? You could have all the dreams in the world of starting it, but you had to create a different mindset. You had to create a mindset shift for yourself that actually makes you want to get up on a Sunday and do this with your Sunday, right? You actually have to have a different mindset to actually want to do the thing that you do full time and then add on something else. So, at the core of everything that we do, at the core of behavior change, is actually making up your mind to do so and actually having a shift, because that's what's going to guide the rest of your behaviors.
That's nice. I mean, it definitely makes sense. I know this year there are a ton, there's probably literally millions of people that set New Year's resolutions to lose weight. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to add that in at least 5 days a week. I'm going to go vegan, and I'm going to do this and all of these things, when just understanding that it's something bigger than that. It's more
It's way
to it
bigger than
than
that.
more to it than that. Wow. Well, I
It's
think
so much bigger than that. And if I can just add a little bit, here's the thing that has happened though. We also have been conditioned and programmed to think in those short term, convenient ways. What I love about us as people is that we are super ambitious people. And so we want to go for that thing that's, we see ourselves being able to wake up 5 days a week at 5 o'clock, being able to go to the gym. We're super ambitious. The thing that we don't account for is actually what gets in the way of that, and actually is that sustainable. So we're not taking into account, and I know people want to change, but we've been programmed with this microwave mentality, this convenience that is going to happen right away, and we fall into the trap of promises. And that's just diet culture in and of itself, that you're going to be able to do this thing right out of the gate, and I'm going to give you the secret formula to be able to do so. And it actually doesn't work like that. And what happens is we get so desperate for a change, we get so desperate for results, that we actually go towards those things and like convenience and things that are going to happen right away. And we actually have been sort of like, we haven't been conditioned to wait, and we've been conditioned to get it right away. So instant gratification. So we're going to go towards those things that provide us and promise us that instant gratification, because we just don't know how to wait and be patient on those things, because none of that stuff works and none of it lasts, but we go towards it anyway. And that's why the diet industry is such a multi-billion-dollar industry.
I think what's happening is people try that, and whenever they can't accomplish it, I know some people that have gone and actually, for the plastic surgery, the liposuction, and I've seen people that have the, I think it's called that it's something with their stomach where they actually do something like that. And then like years later, I seen them and I'm like, wow, like at first they lost this weight. It came off rapidly to the point where it almost looked unhealthy at first. And then they started to look healthy, like it caught up. And then they gained it all back. And I was trying to figure out how was that possible.
So that's the gastric bypass, and then there's the sleeve, right? So some things are rerouted, and then something, your stomach is kind of like clamped off or shrink. It's kind of like made smaller in size, that kind of thing. So what happens with that is that's a procedure that lasts a couple of hours, but it doesn't work on your mindset, right? So if you are going to do something like that, you also have to make sure you're still doing the mindset work. You're still doing the habit work. You're still doing the trigger work, because what happens is you can gain that weight back because you can stretch your stomach out again. You can actually, we're stretching our stomachs all the time when we're overeating. And so you can just retrain your body to be able to hold that again, and your body begins to hold on to that weight. So that's the thing that happens. And I tell people, it doesn't matter what you choose to do. If you still want to be a consumer of diet culture, if you want to actually go get the surgery, if that's your choice, you still have to do the mindset work. You still have to do the deeper level work that is required to sustain that type of lifestyle. And so I tell people, I'm the prerequisite and the post to all of that stuff, right? So if you're going to do that, we still got to do the mindset work. Because if you've had that done and you still feel the need to overeat or eat everything on your plate, we got a deeper issue happening, because your mind hasn't actually had the procedure, your body did. So you're not able to recognize the signals. You're not able to go past the messages that you receive, because that stuff is deeply rooted. You're still not able to delay gratification. So all of that stuff, just because that happened and you got a smaller body, and that's why I always tell people, it doesn't mean that you're actually healthy. What we've done is just made our bodies sort of in line with what society has told us is right and correct. We haven't done any of the work to actually move outside of that, because I actually think that we've all bought into this idea, this beauty standard that is not realistic. And all of us are trying like hell to get to that. And we're wondering why we can't, because our bodies are telling us, I don't want to be that. Instead, we're trying to do that because we think that that's what's correct. So even unlearning societal messages of what is beautiful, societal standards of what a body type should look like. And we're all running towards these standards when that actually isn't supposed to be what we are at all. So even wrapping your mind around, okay, my body wants to look like this. Because for me, like I don't know if you looked at my Instagram page, I did a whole bodybuilding competition. I almost had to eat 600 calories a day to get my body to be that small and lean. My body does not want to be that small and lean. I have to fight really, 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 really hard to be that lean. My body does not want to be that lean. So in order to do that, in order to be that lean, I would have to do that for the rest of my life. And that is not sustainable.
No.
Right?
No.
So it's like unlearning a lot of that stuff is what we have to do.
600 calories, I think I would pass out.
Oh yeah. Well, I was almost there many a day. so I'm not meant for the stage. That is not my life. I did it. I checked it off. Been there, got the t-shirts, don't want to do it again. So
yeah, I understand. I see on your website you have something, it's called the grocery cheat sheet. And so if someone were to go to your website and they sign up, do they have to join a coaching session or therapy in order to obtain it?
Oh no, you just go, you put your email address in. The only thing you do is get added to my email list.
Oh,
that's
okay.
just like for people who, because I still recognize that people feel like they need just give me something. So I can't, it would be really unrealistic for me to say, well, no, you have to come to me with your mind already change from diet culture and all of that, I recognize that people still need a place to start. So that's what that grocery sheet, cheat sheet actually serves. It serves those people who feel like, I just need to know what to go into the grocery store and get. So now when you get on my list, I can begin to kind of provide you more information about why we need to be able to understand how to do things differently, and why this is beneficial, and why this is balanced, why this is the problem, and that kind of thing. Because I recognize that we're all starting from diet culture. So we all need to kind of, some people just feel like, just give me something. So that's what that sheet is. So you get
Okay.
on my email list, and it helps you to kind of recognize, for those people who feel like, I'm buying more non-nutritious food than I am nutritious food, but I actually don't know how to balance that out. I actually don't know what that means. So should I not buy my wine? Should I not buy my cheese? Should I not? So it actually gives you, breaks it down in a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, and buy 5 of these, buy 4 of these, buy 3 of these, buy 2 of these, buy 1 of these, which actually helps you to have balance, and actually helps you to go into the store with and get what you actually went in to get, instead of all these other things. Because if you're anything like me, if it's in my house, I'm gonna eat it. So if there's
Mm-hmm.
a bag of tortilla chips in my house, I'm gonna eat them. If there's bread, banana bread in my house, I'm gonna eat it. So if I don't buy it, then I can't have it. But it doesn't mean that I can't ever have it. It just means that this week this is what I'm focused on. Then next week this is what I'm focused on, and it may fit that week, but it just doesn't fit this week. So I take the approach of not taking anything off the table, but just giving us a guideline of what we can do week by week. So that's what the grocery sheet
Wow,
serves
so
as.
we can have wine?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing about me. When I started this journey 15 years ago, I vowed to never give up drinking. I was like, anything that makes me feel like I can't have a drink, I'm not doing it, because it just doesn't feel right in my spirit. I don't like it. So I was like, I'm not gonna do that. And you will find it, because actually telling you that you cannot drink is actually very restrictive and unrealistic, unless drinking just isn't your thing, but it's mine. So I like to have a good drink. And I just have to figure out how to balance that out. Like, a drink for me every day does not make my body feel well. A drink for me every day actually makes my body hurt to touch. So that's actually my limit. But that doesn't mean that that's everybody's limit, right? So you have to
Mm-hmm.
figure out where that fits in, and where you still are able to be effective and feel good in your body and skin, and where that adds up. So I'm a person who, I can have several drinks over the weekend and be fine, but I can't do that every day.
Me
So
either.
you absolutely, yeah, my body and liver just can't take it
Yeah,
anymore.
mine
So,
either.
uh, so you just have to be honest with yourself. I'm not 21. I'm not 25. So I have to begin to kind of taper off. And here's the thing about alcohol too. Alcohol is a foreign object. It's a toxin, right? So your body, if your goal is to lose weight, say your goal is to lose weight, your body is going to actually stop burning fat when alcohol is introduced, because your body is going to try to get rid of that toxin. So you have to make sure that you understand that, but that also doesn't mean that you have to completely cut it out. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you're prepping to get on the stage and your goal is to be as lean as you can, then guess what? You can't have the alcohol, but that's even only for a short amount of time. That's even only for about 4 weeks or 8 weeks or so. So it's unrealistic to say you never are gonna drink wine. You just have to figure out where it fits within your plan, and where it fits within your lifestyle, and if it makes sense, and if it helps you to reach your overall goal, if it makes you feel good, if it helps your body to be most effective. That's all it is. And that takes you actually knowing for yourself what your body likes. That's why I don't tell anybody, don't get it or don't ever drink it, because it's not realistic. Because what's realistic for me may not be realistic for you.
Mm-hmm. That definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
also
girl,
see
have the
that.
wine.
Yeah, that was my thing. I was like, well, I'm on this thing right now, where for 30 days, so for the entire month of January, I'm not having
Hmm.
like any alcohol beverages. So it's
Yeah.
my one thing that I decided like to make a sacrifice on for this month. But
Hmm.
like you said, it doesn't mean like forever for me. You
Right,
know?
right, right. It's 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's
It's
four
4 weeks for
weeks.
you to see it's a goal, it's something you're trying to reach towards. And I have no problem with those things. It's only when we start out saying, oh, I'm never going to drink in 2020. And this is the way I'm going to jumpstart that. I'm going to go 30 days without alcohol, and I'm going to keep doing that. That's absolutely not sustainable. So if you
Mm-hmm.
start out the year with those kinds of goals, like I'm going to do 30 days of no meat, and then by 2020, I'm going to be meatless, actually give yourself a little bit more time. Because if you've been eating meat for 30 years, it's not just going to happen in 28 days, 30 days. So give
Mm-hmm.
yourself time to do something that's sustainable. And there's nothing wrong with doing little challenges here, resets here, but just understand. So this is where mindset comes in, right? Understand the sustainability of it all. Is this short term? And what are you going to do once that challenge is over? How is this
Mm-hmm.
going to impact your life? What are you going to implement? What is that going to look like?
You know what I did? For
Mm-hmm.
7 days, because like you said, I had meat my entire life. And when I was younger, I had grew up in an area for a few years where we moved to take care of my grandfather, where people, they would go out and hunt and they would come back
Mm-hmm.
and they would hang it on the clothing line. And for me, it was like, for me personally, when I would see that, I would say, hey, I don't want meat tonight. I'll just eat all of
Uh-huh.
the vegetables and the sides. And so she would respect, my mom would respect that. And so then what they started to do was they would have everything cleaned and taken care of before we would get home from school. So then I would eat the meat as long as I didn't see it,
Yeah.
like it's like I like the way it looks in the store.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm right with you. If for
Yeah.
homecoming, because homecoming is a big thing for me. I'm from Mississippi. So I go back to my college homecoming every year, and my uncle finds it appropriate to roast a whole hog, a pig. And I'm like,
Oh, I've
I'm
seen
not
that
eating
before.
any of that. Yeah, I was like, I'm not eating that. He was like, well, you eat bacon. And I said, yeah, when I don't have to see it laying there as a whole animal. So I'm like
Exactly.
you. I don't eat whole fish. I don't eat whole shrimp. I don't want to
Mm-mm.
see the animal in its natural state. I'm not
Right.
gonna eat it.
Yeah, I did that where we went to the pig, or where they roast the pig and they had it on a
Yeah. Mm-mm.
sphere. They dug a hole in the ground and they had the fire. Oh my goodness. I was like,
Yeah, I'm
I'm
not doing
done.
that.
I can't. I can't. And they said, well, we're going to take the head off. I was like, I'm cool. No, I passed. And I
Yeah.
did not. And then
Yeah.
people were like, it's falling off the bones. But I'm like, the fact that I had to see it with the,
Right.
yeah, no, I
Yeah,
can't.
I'm with you.
So, you know how I made it for my 7 day challenge with no meat?
How?
I pictured, I went back to childhood and I pictured the things hanging on the clothing line. I pictured the pig, like, in that format.
That'll
And
do it for you.
yeah, and each time I was like, oh, this is easy. But what I
Yeah.
found was that I didn't do enough homework to have enough
Mm.
meals. And so I would wait and I'm like, I'm really hungry now. And so I would say, I got to go to the market. I went because I didn't buy a ton of stuff like all in one day. I bought like just enough for like maybe 2 days worth of meals. And then I'm like, okay, yay, I learned how to make these wraps, the
Yeah.
little rolls or whatever. So I had that and it was really good and I was doing really great. And then one day I was like, but I would say by day 4, I was like, I am so hungry. And then, but then every time I would look at the meat, I had that image in my mind. So I was like, I'm cool. I actually did well, though, is what I was trying to
Mhm.
get at for the 7 days. And my weakness, I love wings. And so
Mhm.
I got a whiff of them. I was like, they smell so good. And so I started back, but I couldn't even eat the skin. I picked it all
Yeah.
off, and then I was like, okay. But now I'm back. But I think that when you start something like that, the longer you go,
Mhm.
obviously the easier it is to stay away from it if you have those images in your mind,
Yeah. Yeah. And
like what
and
I
that's
had.
mindset work, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I
I would
see.
even venture to say, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Like, why am I even wanting to go meatless? Like, how does this impact me? What is the point of all of this? And is somebody telling me that this is the healthiest way to be? Does my body think this is the healthiest way to be? Like, asking yourself even those questions.
I think what it was in my particular situation was I think I had seen something on YouTube about doing a challenge, and then I was like, that's not for me because I will pass
Mm-hmm.
out. I get weak when I don't eat meat. That's what I had been telling myself for years. And I just thought, well, I start shaking and I decided to do it for one day. And then someone accidentally sent me a video called
Mm.
Earthlings or something like that, or maybe it was intentional. I'm not sure. But when I watched it, I was like, oh my goodness. And so that's what pushed me there. So I don't know if you want to say having an empathetic or is it weak or whichever one you want to call it. But when I seen it, it disturbed me to
Mm-hmm.
the point that it pushed me into, I'm going to do the 7 day challenge. And so that's how mine began. So
Yeah.
that's how it started for me. But
Yeah, and I don't think anything is wrong with actually trying it out to see if that's something that fits your lifestyle or even fits what you want to do. But I do think that even those people, as much as diet culture has propaganda, I think that sometimes veganism can be propaganda driven, and it's the shock value, right? So they want you to
mm-hmm.
be shocked. They want you to be disgusted. They want to push the agenda that we all need to be plant based. But in reality, that doesn't fit every single body. That
That's
doesn't
right.
fit every single lifestyle. So you have to be cognizant of that too. And what somebody says is not healthy for them doesn't mean that it's not healthy for you.
Yes, Dr. Ebony, that was an amazing show. I hope that everyone tuning in enjoyed the show. You guys be sure to check out Dr. Ebony, her website, her book, as well as her podcast. I also want to let you guys know that we continue into next week with additional guests. You guys are going to enjoy the show, so be sure to tune in. Please like, follow, subscribe, share the podcast. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. I'm Shanta with Authentic Talks.
Do it scared, do it afraid, do it confused, do it do it disappointed, do it anyway. Do it anyway.
To hear the full episode of this podcast and others, look for Authentic Talks on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. They can be found on the About section of this channel. Thank you for your continued support of Authentic Talks.